Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Vikings Vent Line. What's going on, everyone? Declan Goff here, the executive producer of Purple Daily. Mackie and Judd and everything Score North. Every Sunday right here on the Purple Daily YouTube channel, it is Vikings Vent Line, the off-season edition. I'm going to talk to my guys Jacob and Novelis here in just a little bit. Excited to talk to them. Some off-season topics. What do they think of Brian Flores? Maybe even some draft chatter as well. Of course, Vikings Vent Line, powered by our friends at TCL. Enjoy more of what you love with TCL. And, of course, Vikings Vent Line is your show. So if you'd like to come on a future episode of Vikings Vent Line, for the YouTube audience, it's scrolling across the bottom of the screen. It's vikingsventline@gmail.com. That's vikingsventline@gmail.com. I want to talk to as many Vikings fans as I can. This is a year-round program with the off-season edition and the full-season edition, where after Vikings games, Mackie, Judd, and myself, we welcome on a ton of Vikings fans to talk about the game, good or bad. This is a safe space for you, whether you don't like us or do like us for whatever reason, or if you're a Kirk Cousins fan or you're not a fan of Kirk Cousins. We welcome all the fans here on Vikings Vent Line because this is your program on Purple Daily. This would be an absolute blast. And again, vikingsventline@gmail.com if you want to get in on a future episode of Vikings Vent Line. All right, let's waste no more time here. Let's get my guys on. Let's get Jacob on. Let's get Novelis on here. Boys, what's going on?
Doing good.
Nice. Jacob said he was hanging out in Fargo. Novelis, where are you hanging out from? Where are you at?
Baby.
I'm in Michigan, man. I'm in Waterford, Michigan right now.
Okay. How did Novelis, how did you first become a Vikings fan?
Man, I'm around your age. I'm 34. I've been a fan since 1998, man. When I was 10. That was my stepdad actually turned me into a Vikings fan. He's been a fan since he was a kid. So he was there for some of the Fran days. And he put me on when I was 10, and I've been a diehard fan ever since. Like before there was NFL Sunday Ticket, like me and him used to listen to the games on K-Fan and stuff. So I've been down for a long time.
Nice, man. Love to hear that. Jacob, you said you're in Fargo. Roll Herd. Love that. Go Bison. They actually are a college football program that can win some stuff around up here in the Midwest.
Yeah.
How long have you been a Vikings fan?
I've been a fan since about 2008. The first year I really remember the Vikings was that 2008 season with Gus Frerotte and Tavares Jackson. May he rest in peace. But I remember that playoff game against the Eagles was in 2008 at the Dome. And They got just completely their butts kicked because it was an Adrian Peterson carry job season. I mean, we witnessed two of those, I think, because 2008 kind of gets forgotten about because Adrian Peterson had like one of the best years of all time in 2012. He was amazing. So 2008, 2009 NFC Championship game was the first heart-ripping defeat as a Vikings fan I've witnessed. And from this day, I have despised the New Orleans Saints and take a lovely shot and fight approach every time they fail miserably. So.
I love that for you. I was at the Vikings-Eagles playoff game in 2008 when they lost that. I was like probably a sophomore in high school, I believe.
Yeah.
Painted my face, was all jacked up. And then Tavares Jackson, may he rest in peace. Not a great game. He gets forklifted off the ground. Brian Westbrook ran like a 70-yard screenplay for a touchdown. Brutal loss. Everyone, including Novelis, who became a fan in 98, Jacob, whether it was 2008, everyone's got a heartbreaking story with the Minnesota Vikings. So we just want to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl before we die, right? That's exactly why. It's exactly why we're all here.
That is the goal.
So let's start with the first topic here. Novelis, I'm going to start with you, man. Which Vikings veterans do you want to see go? Which Vikings veterans do you want to see stay? There could be a lot of turnover here. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on which players should go, which players should stay. Floor is yours.
So I'm all the way out on some of the slower defenders. I'm out on Kendricks. I'm out on Hicks. I'm actually out on Za'Darius as well, just because, I think, both sides understand that he was brung here to be a mercenary type of, player, and he can continue to do that if we let him go. I have a soft spot for Harrison Smith. If they can figure something out, I would love that. If not, I understand. Kind of the same with Thielen. I think his situation's becoming a little weird with, some of the drama surrounding it and everything. So if it turns into that, I'm completely fine with him leaving as well. And I think they should. I want them to trade Dalvin Cook. I mean, I've been hitting that trade on PFF mocks. It works every time, but I don't know if they'll be able to get that good a pick in real life. So, but I'm out on those guys. I mean, I'm in on keeping Danielle, especially with Flores coming in. But yeah, those are some of the. Also, this is one nobody's really talked about. I think they should look at trading Cam Dantzler as well, see if they could get something for him. I mean, I don't know if they're going to get a free agent cornerback or draft one, but I'm not out on Andrew Booth and Evans. I think like a lot of other people are. I know they had frustrating rookie seasons, but they were hurt. And then I think the scheme was such a big stat skewer, man. And I think it just made a lot of people look horrible because the scheme was so bad. So I really want to see what those guys are like, playing more man coverage and more aggressive defense.
Yeah, the Dantzler one's interesting, right? I mean, just because they're thin at cornerback doesn't mean that they could potentially move on. It clears a space for someone else to kind of take those reps, right, for more opportunity, whether that's a free agent, whether that's a draft, or maybe it's a straight-up football-for-football player trade. That's one that hasn't been talked about a lot. I like it, too. And, Zadarius Smith, expect to make a lot of money. Can you keep both Zadarius and Danielle happy and under contract for the same amount of term? I think that's going to be difficult. So a lot of turnover there. The Dalvin Cook shoulder injury, we'll see what happens there if that affects his market at all. Jacob, you were actually telling me off, Mike, you had some Dalvin Cook takes as well. So which players do you want to see go? Which players do you want to see stay?
So the big six we've talked about are Dalvin Cook, Danielle Hunter, Eric Kendricks, Harrison Smith, Zadarius Smith, and Adam Thielen. Dalvin Cook, love the guy. Have his vintage jersey from 2017 to 2021. But I think they're going to cut him. I've seen a lot of people have takes. I saw you guys this week with Thor do a mock draft. I've seen Randy talk about him going to the Dolphins. I just don't think that an NFL team was like a $10 million cap hit. I think a team's just going to wait for him to get released. Then they're going to go and try and pick him up. So that's just my take on it. I mean, if you could get a day 3 pick for him, I would take it in a heartbeat. Danielle Hunter, I'm keeping 100%. You have to keep him. I think out of the 6 guys, he is the guy that has to stay the most. Eric Kendricks, I love the guy. He was amazing in 2019 and 2020. He had a really rough year and it sucks, but I think they're going to let him go. His cap hit's big. I know Novelist mentioned Jordan Hicks. He's gone. I think he was gone no matter what. I think Arif Hassan brought up it was basically a 1-year deal. If you guys know Arif, awesome show. Shout out Arif. Harrison Smith, I would keep. I thought he was still pretty good last year. I get the entire defense was complete horse poop around him, but I don't know if I can swear. I don't want to have TCL cancel your guys' membership or sponsorship. So Harrison Smith, Zadarius, I would like to keep as well, but I think if you have to keep one or the other, I'd take Danielle. I would love to keep Zadarius. I thought honestly he was in running for Defensive Player of the Year last year up until last season until he got hurt in Buffalo and kind of ruined the rest of the season. And Adam Thielen, this one sucks the most. I think they're going to cut him. His cap's big. And all these guys obviously they want to make their money. They want to keep their money. Another random nerd stat, 90% of NFL players now have CTE or something they saw. They came out last week or something. So all these guys want to keep their money and I get these guys want to get paid. They want to keep their money. So I think Adam Thielen's going to go. I hate to say it that one hurts probably the most because, Minnesota boy, grew up 45 minutes away from Fargo, MSUM, basically Minnesota through and through, but I think he's gone. So
yeah, that one's going to be tough. I mean, it's a tough pill for a lot of Vikings fans to swallow. He's born and bred Minnesota. The story is incredible, but yeah, he's just making a ton of money, and eventually, Father Time kind of catches up with you in the NFL, even though you're not
Ring of Honor guy, though, for sure.
For sure, yeah, I would even think a first ballot guy, of course, and why wouldn't he be? But I agree. I think he makes way too much money, and if they can't figure out some type of pay cut, restructure, or a trade, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think you can just straight up pay him $19 million for him to be the shell, the player that he unfortunately used to be. So with the Dalvin Cook thing, a lot of money, and does another team want to take that on when they can just risk that he'll be cut and then it's just free roam to go sign him or make it the best offer for him? That one's a little more trickier. I'm curious to see how it plays out through the offseason. We're like a month away from free agency really picking up, but I think we'll start to see a lot more things kind of trickle in as we get closer and closer to free agency. Fellas, well, Brian Flores got hired by the Vikings, defensive coordinator, former head coach of the Dolphins, was with the Steelers last year. He's tasked with turning around a defense that was once again near the bottom of the NFL. He inherits it from Ed Donatel, who was one and done after this season. Novelist, how are you feeling about the Vikings hiring Brian Flores to run the defense?
I love it. He was number one on my list as soon as they started the search. I just love the energy he brings when he was with the Dolphins. I'm here for kind of the good cop, bad cop vibe that I get from him and KLC. KLC might coddle some guys sometimes and be nice to him, but Coach Flores was yelling at him, and he kind of gets after the players sometimes, as we saw when he was with the Dolphins. And just getting back to being an aggressive defense. I think the thing that drove me the most crazy with Donashell was just like it wasn't working, and then they just kept doing it. I didn't understand why they just made no adjustments. They just kept doing the same thing. So I'm just looking forward to just a change in that regard. I know everybody is into the kind of the cover zero thing, and I like it too. You don't always have to blitz. Sometimes you can show it, and then you can drop guys into covers. But it's just kind of a look that makes people think, and it's not just the same thing all the time and leaving the middle of the field open and having slow linebackers chasing after tight ends and running backs all the time. So I'm excited for it, and I love it.
Yeah, you would like to think that the defense can't get any worse, right? I mean, my God, it's been near the bottom of the NFL the last few years, whether it's been Zimmer or Ed Donatel and Brian Flores, a little bit of a breath of fresh air. A guy who was inherited a similar situation in Miami where he turned around that defense basically overnight, became a really good defense during his tenure. And yeah, there's some pieces here. He faces an uphill battle for sure, but I kind of like the good cop, bad cop comparison where Kevin O'Connell probably does maybe get in guys' faces a little more than we think, but he obviously is much more about culture and having people being all together and whatnot. So completely get that. And if Flores can kind of be the bad cop who can kind of wrangle some of those guys in. And in general, I just think they probably yin and yang off each other pretty well. They're younger guys. They've both been head coaches in the NFL. So I'm excited for how that relationship materializes. Jacob, what do you think, man? What do you think about the hire of Brian Flores?
I'm excited, obviously. I think he should still be NFL head coach. I know all the crazy stories about them tanking in 2019 and stuff. I'm very excited to see what he does. And I think you guys will both agree with me on this. I'm not asking this team to go from the 31st ranked defense to like the 9th ranked defense. I just want this defense to go from literally the bottom of the barrel to like middle of the tier.
Just be middle of the pack.
Yeah. That's exactly. I've said this we can get like if the Vikings even had like an average defense, they probably win that playoff game against the Giants. Like they made Daniel 100%. Jones look like an all-pro and made Giants fans hyped for 1 week about how he's an elite quarterback, and they get completely stomped by the Eagles. But I obviously I'm not an expert on like schematics and stuff, but I saw a really good video from Luke Braun about it and how he breaks it down. So like I'm very interested to see how they do it. And I also kind of want to see what they do with Lewis Cine. Like, obviously, like, everyone was very disappointed. Like, he didn't play right away. And he had suffered that really, really gruesome injury in London. And we haven't really seen much from him. I know there's videos of him on social media getting back into it, and he looks really good. So I kind of want to see what he does with Lewis Cine. I'm very excited. So
yeah, the Lewis Cine thing's interesting because of the nasty compound fracture he suffered, but he's like teasing out these awesome social media videos where he seems to be recovered from it from a good deal and is on track to hopefully be ready by week 1 of next season. How did you guys feel about that first draft from a year ago? Obviously, they take Kwesi moves down, they take Lewis Cine. Kyle Hamilton was there for them. Novelist, what did you kind of think of that first draft from Kwesi?
I hated it. And that's just, just purely from a place of just draft the best player, man. Like, right. Kyle Hamilton was right there at 12 if you're going to draft the safety anyway, and I think, it's also more rooted in the fact that he got Singh got hurt, so he didn't play. But also, at the beginning of camp, like he hadn't even. It was like they gave the job, away in the spring before they even got to camp. So they were saying that he wasn't even going to be the starter anyways, which is kind of disappointing. If you're drafting a safety as your first pick, that guy needs to start. You need to get him out there, and if he's not ready, then you got to then coach at Dontel. You got to get him ready. He needs to be ready to get in there and play right away.
Jacob, what do you think about that last year's class?
Yeah, I mean, it's only 1 year, and like not a lot of the rookie class played except for Ed Ingram, who was not good at right guard. We'll go with, but like obviously at 32, I wanted the Vikings to take my guy Christian Watson from North Dakota State. So I was a little disappointed they ended up rolling with Louis, and it's not against Louisiana. I thought he was a good player at Georgia, but like when you trade back that far, I didn't know they were going to draft a position they could have taken at 12. That was very weird and annoying. And then they traded back, and they did some more trading because when they had 32 and 34, I think they traded 34 to the Packers, and that's when they got Watson. So I'm like, ew, as a Vikings fan and NDSU guy. So very conflicted there. And like they got Booth, they got Ingram. It's just like it was a very, very like it's frustrating. I get like people are mad about it, and I get it, but I'm gonna maybe just TBD in a couple of years. If everyone's bad, then I will say it was bad. But I just want to see how these guys play it out.
For sure. Well, they got a second chance at it here, obviously, right? They got the 23rd pick in this year's draft. They don't have a second round pick because of the TJ Hawkinson trade. Only 5 draft picks going into this draft. So what do you guys want to see the Vikings do at this draft? Obviously, we talked about cornerback at the top of the show being a thin position. Are you looking to draft a QB? Are you looking to draft another weapon on wide receiver? Novelist, I'll start with you. Where do you want to see the Vikings go at the draft this year?
If they stay put at 23, I really want them to draft a receiver. There's some really good, like I love Jordan Addison, man. He actually reminds me of Justin Jefferson, the way that he runs his routes. There's a couple good guys that I think could be there, So I really want them to take a receiver. I think the offense is so close to being elite, and the defense is going to be a project. So I'm not opposed to adding to something that would make the offense elite, because it's already almost there. And like I said, if some of these receivers fall to that spot, there's a few really, really good receivers that I like a lot that I think would really help them out. Because we gotta stop letting guys just double Justin Jefferson safety over the top without thinking about it. He's always getting all the attention. So he needs, and TJ Hawkinson was awesome, but they need a legit number 2 receiver that can win against one-on-one coverage consistently. And I want to see them take a receiver.
Yeah,
but also draft a quarterback, please.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind them taking a QB on day 2 or day 3 of the draft as well. And you always need as many skill position players as possible. So if that means taking another wide receiver, pair him with Justin Jefferson, I mean, man, that could be fireworks, right? That could be a lot of fun. So whether that's a corner, whether that's an edge, which they could maybe even need on the defensive line opposite of Danielle Hunter, there's a plenty of different avenues they could go. Jacob, where do you want to see the Vikings go at the draft this year?
I agree with you guys. Obviously, wide receiver, defensive back, basically anything on defense the Vikings need. Wide receiver would be really fun too. But I kind of want to go back to the quarterback point. I know we talk about it all the freaking time, but I'm kind of more of like, if you want to get a quarterback this year, I want to go for it in the first round. Like, I just kind of want to go for it. The issue is the Vikings have 4 picks? And listen, the TJ Hawkinson trade, I do 10 times out of 10. He was amazing. He could have easily been a second-team All-Pro this year if he doesn't have to deal with 2 future Hall of Famers at the tight end position. So I just think if you're going to go for a quarterback this year, personally, I would try to go for it in the first round. I think that then that's the issue is, again, they have no cap space. And let's say, I mean, the only guy I think they'd have a realistic chance to get in the first round would be like Anthony Richardson, because everyone has kind of, I know Thor was on earlier this week. He talked about like he's probably the guy they're going to probably take. But the issue is like they're going to have to rely on probably the Raiders to get like Aaron Rodgers because I think the Panthers are going to take a quarterback. They hired Frank Reich. The Texans and Colts are going to take a quarterback. And I kind of want to see what the Seahawks do when they extend Geno, if like maybe the money's only guaranteed for the first year and like they have a quarterback fall in their lap at 5 they really want, and they can just have him sit behind Geno. And this isn't a shot at Geno. I thought he was really damn good this year. It's just like they're going to probably try to find someone else. And I guess so yeah, that's if you want to get a guy, like I would personally, but you'd have to like, I also decided to list all the picks from 9 to 22 last night because I have no life, respectfully. So like I looked at the teams in between the Panthers and the Vikings that the Vikings could trade with, like the Eagles, they're not going to trade. The Titans, the Texans, I don't even think the Texans will have the 12th overall pick. The Jets might get a veteran quarterback. I think the team they could trade with is New England at 14. I think they're going to roll with Mac Jones again, and I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen. And we are kind of talking in like hypotheticals. I'm sorry if I'm rambling. It's just I think this is very unlikely. I think they should just take receiver or defense. But if it happens, I would just, if you want to get a quarterback this year, I just go day one. Just try to swing for the fence, I would say.
Absolutely. I mean, you'd have to have the capital to move up. That's a little murky for them given just the 5 draft picks, right? But hell, I mean, crazier things have happened. No one saw the Chiefs trading up and getting Patrick Mahomes, and obviously that worked out super well for them. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what they end up doing at the draft. Yeah, maybe taking a day 3 QB and another Kellen Mond situation isn't like the best ideal of getting a quarterback to hit as a franchise guy, but they could certainly still do one if they want to move on from life after Kirk Cousins. Fellas, before I wrap here on Vikings Vent Line, which, by the way, hit the subscribe button for daily Vikings entertainment. Any last takes? Anyone you want to shout out here on this edition of Vikings Vent Line? Novelist, I'll go to you, man.
Yeah, man, I got to shout out my dad, man, Steve. Just made me a Vikings fan, and you know we're still to this day, man. Every Sunday we watch every Vikings game. Haven't missed a game in a long time, so he's the reason I'm a fan. 98, Moss, Carter, Jake Reed, Randall Cunningham. I still think about that team all the time. Gary Anderson missed a field goal first time in 2 years. So my first season was heartbreak, so I'm used to it. So shout out to my dad. Love you, man.
Awesome. Jacob, how about you, man?
Shout out my dad too. We watch football. We're Vikings fans because of him. Shout out, I guess, my friends and anyone who knows me who watches Purple Daily, I guess. I don't know. Well, hi. That's all I got.
Appreciate you guys. No, awesome. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, Declan, one more thing. So I'm a diehard pro wrestling fan.
Hell yeah.
And from what I hear is that you and Phil are as well. You don't have to do it right now, but next time you guys do an episode of Purple Daily, I want to know both your guys' top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time.
Ooh. Okay, I will write this down so we can get after it on Monday. Yes, top 5 wrestlers. I already have like so many options off the top of my head. You got Elimination Chamber this weekend, dude. So I'm jacked for that.
Wait, Declan. So every time I watch like Purple Daily, so the reason why you guys have so many like of those like ad libs of like random pro wrestling things is that like because you and Phil love pro wrestling so much. I just never knew that. I thought okay.
No, that's 100% what it is. I mean, and to be honest, like we've thought about wanting to do a wrestling podcast. We did some during the pandemic when obviously sports were just wiped out for those first 4 or 5 months. We reviewed a ton of WrestleManias. We're both huge wrestling geeks. We'll obviously be texting each other a ton when big wrestling news is going down. So yeah, no, we are wrestling nerds. If we had the time and a little bit more space and whatnot, Phil and I would do a weekly wrestling show easily. We'd love to make it happen.
That's great. I am too, man. Are you guys straight up WWE guys? You guys like AEW, New Japan?
Yeah. We like AEW and WWE, I think, probably the most. I've been to a few shows within the last years, and I know some of those Vikings fans who love wrestling as well. So, yeah, man, I'm jacked. And this is the prime time of wrestling here, right? I mean, you're on the road to WrestleMania. So
road to WrestleMania, man.
I'm all about it. Man, I could talk wrestling for like another half hour, I think, on this episode.
I know this is really random, but doesn't Shad Khan, the guy who owns the Jaguars, he does AEW, right? He runs AEW, or his son runs AEW.
His son, Tony, owns AEW.
Yeah, Tony. Yeah. His son, Tony, owns it. So, yeah, there's plenty of football and wrestling combinations here. Hey, boys, I appreciate you guys coming on. Thanks for coming on Vikings Vent Line. We'll get you on again for sure. And if anyone wants to come on a future episode of Vikings Vent Line and you want to shoot the breeze with me on football or wrestling topics, it's VikingsVentLine@gmail.com. We'll be back at full strength on Monday, where we just want to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl before we die.